intricacies behind ingredients. And in that lab, I was trained in ingredients for skincare, hair care, body, color cosmetics. And I was trained in formulation and skin and hair physiology and structure. So I was trained really well. And I was definitely an outsider there because everybody at that company had a biology or chemistry degree. But they hired me because I kind of came in with so much passion. And I was just like I remember interviewing with the VP. It's a very small company, but I remember interviewing with the VP, and I did a presentation about how how the internet essentially was changing how people were making purchasing decisions. So, and I think that they were just really interested in the passion that I was bringing. So I was really fortunate to get that job because a huge part of my skill set now is kind of combining creative thinking with the science and the technical. And that's like a huge part of skincare. So I was at that company for about 2 years and then moved into PD, and I've been working in PD ever since. I worked for a company for about 3.5 years that focused on building fast beauty for traditional brick and mortar retailers like Costco, for instance. And there I learned everything about PD and was trained really well. And then I've been working for Seed for almost 2 years and been just focusing on developing just incredible formulas for skin and body. So yeah, I hope that's a good explanation of my career path.
No, that's great. You've definitely had such a, a long journey as to where you got to where you are now. So thank you for sharing, Megan. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Celeste. Celeste, like, I feel like every time I have a question about a product, like, you're such an expert. So I want to know how you were interested in that along with your career journey. So excited to see what you have to say.
Oh, thank you. Hi guys, I'm Celeste. I have worked for Seed Beauty on the 16th. It'll be 4 years, and which is so exciting and very it's super crazy to think about. I feel like I've maybe had one of the more unconventional starter stories. Kind of like way back, and the girls have heard this story so many times and they're probably so tired of hearing about it. But 20 some years ago, my mom worked for Spatz Laboratories in the HR department. And so it's very crazy to think that, well, my mom and my aunt, actually, my mom worked in HR and my aunt worked in payroll. So it's very funny to think that I work right across from the building that they got their start at. And growing up, I didn't really wear makeup. I was always very interested in color. My parents had an interior design business when I was growing up. And so I spent a lot of time in Lowe's and Home Depot looking at paint swatches. And, I don't know if you guys have seen paint being made, but it's very interesting. Just the different colors that you put into this white base, and then it turns into this beautiful color. Super, super interesting, very aesthetically pleasing. But I've always had an interest in color, always had an interest in being creative. And I would say the first year out of high school, I kind of started experimenting with makeup. I remember my first foundation that I ever bought. But I learned almost everything that I know from YouTube. And I remember at the time I was a kinesiology major, and I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. And I thought, this is my career path. I want to work for, the Dodgers or like some sports team, and I want to be a physical therapist, but math and that is not my journey. So it is for somebody else 1,000%. But I finally kind of went into a communication major. And then after that, I was working part-time at the outlets, and we have an outlet mall here in Southern California. And, kudos to anybody that can work Black Friday and come out unscathed, but I knew that that was not for me. I know that these ladies have worked retail and they completely can attest to the fact that you have to have a very special skill set to do that. And so I remember hearing about ColourPop and just knowing like, oh, I love this brand. They're accessible. And at the time I was working 3 jobs. I didn't have the money to buy these really expensive formulas. So, you know, knowing that ColourPop was so amazing and so accessibly there price point wise, I heard about ColourPop, and this is way back when we had a careers tab at the bottom of the page. And I remember I had my my resume ready and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I still have the original email. I actually like printed it out, and whenever I'm having like a rut, I always think about, you know, why you started, why you are where you are. And I got an interview, and I did 3 separate interviews. It was the most nerve-wracking thing in the whole entire world to see Jordan and Sharon, who you see on your tiny little phone screen all the time. And then you walk in the room and they're talking to you and they're interviewing you and asking you questions. But I got a job in customer service, and I was there for about 6 months. And, you know, I came in with some product knowledge because, like I said, I was a makeup junkie. Everything I've learned is from YouTube. So the Jaclyn Hills, the, you know, the OG YouTubers taught me everything I knew. I remember Desi Perkins got the first 31 Super Shocks, and she was swatching all of them, and I was like, they're so amazing. Like, I would sit at my desk, and on my lunch at ColourPop, I would buy products. I told Erin this the other day. Like, I won a PR package that was our lip glosses, but I had already purchased all of them. So I gave away all the ones that I purchased, and I kept the PR box that I had up until a couple weeks ago. So I was in customer service for about 6 months, and one product development position opened up, and you had to go through this whole process of doing the color test, and then you had to have a meeting with the brand managers. And I just remember thinking like, all right, Celeste, like, you know that you want to do this. I knew that somebody had to make these beautiful products. I just didn't know that that was really a job. And I think it's so amazing for FIDM students that you guys know that product development is a job, and you have these opportunities that I didn't know were accessible to me at the time. But I ended up interviewing, and fortunately, myself and another girl that interviewed got the positions, and now we've kind of like come up together, and we still work together now. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey from customer service and that background of like knowing the products, knowing, you know, what people love, what they don't love, why are they emailing, what problems do they have with the products, and then going into product development, and now I'm just completely obsessed. So that's my story.
Thank you. I know that you mentioned that so many people know your story, but I personally didn't know your story. So I'm happy to see, you know, where you started and how far you've come in your journey. So that's amazing. Jasmine, I know we kind of talked about you being a recent graduate over the holidays, I believe, right? So yeah, I wanted to see how that kind of played into how your education kind of plays into what you do now, and feel free to share your career journey as well.
Yeah, awesome. Hi guys, my name is Jasmine. Like Alondra said, I am a recent FIDM grad. I completed my Bachelor's of Science in Business Management this past December. Don't know where you guys are at yet with your FIDM experience, but maybe I will hopefully see some of you guys in September come graduation. But yeah, so I started with the first program. I did the beauty marketing and product development program through FIDM as a professional designation student, because I have a little bit of a bumpy, crazy road before I got up to FIDM. And then from there, I decided to do the advanced program in beauty management, and then always have known that I wanted to get my bachelor's degree. So I decided to do that, and I still did that with FIDM as well. And it's been amazing. And I'm such a ride or die for FIDM, and I'm so proud to be an alumni, because I feel like it has really set up such a great experience and future for me to where I can see myself being an asset and being successful in the beauty industry. Like kind of like Celeste, I didn't even know that about Celeste at first. I was actually a kinesiology major before all of this happened. I come from a very sporty, athletic family, so myself being in sports my whole life. I thought that I was going to be a physician's assistant, specializing in athletes. Quickly learned through my second year of college that that was not my calling. But while I was studying that, while I was at home, I was always on YouTube. I was always looking up different makeup tricks and hacks because I was also a beauty junkie. I've always loved everything about makeup and beauty. I remember my mom buying me my first like Sigma brush roll and a Coastal Scents palette, and I thought that I like have the best products on the palette and in the world, and I'm going to build as many looks as I can and learn how to do makeup because I really did not know what I was doing at first. And so my passion has kind of always carried with me. I feel like a lot of people can relate to, before FIDM, I didn't even really know that there was a business behind beauty. And then one day my friend who was at FIDM, who was attending FIDM at the time, told me that there's this beauty major. And I wasn't sure what that was. I thought, is that like cosmetology school? I don't really want to be a makeup artist, even though I have such respect for makeup artists because their creativity and their skill set is amazing. I didn't want to go that route, but then she's like, oh no, FIDM is very business oriented and I can really see you doing something like that. And I remember saying, you know what, in a different life, I feel like that would be what I would love to do. I would love to be in the beauty industry. And then I caught myself right after saying that, thinking, why am I saying that? Why shouldn't I just look into that now and see where my future can go with the beauty industry? So I decided to take that little FIDM quiz that tells you which major is the best fit for you. And of course, the first one that popped up was the beauty program. So I rushed over to FIDM like 2 weekends after that and got my tour, got all my information, presented it to my dad because he wasn't very fond of the idea at first. I feel like most of our parents aren't really aware of how amazing FIDM is and the opportunities it can bring for us. And he ended up being on board. I went to FIDM, and then while I was at FIDM, I ended up getting an internship with Seed Beauty, focusing more on ColourPop. I kind of was able to go to different brands like Fourth Ray and Soul and all that, but mainly focusing on ColourPop. And I was an intern for about a year. And then while getting my bachelor's degree, I ended up getting hired full-time as a product development associate. And kind of a little bit what I do is I do a lot of like competitive research. I do a lot of mood boards. I love looking for trends to seeing what's. Can you guys hear? I don't know if you guys can hear the beeping on my laptop, but there's a lot of beeping right now. So I'm sorry. I have like a bunch of emails coming in and it's really distracting. So I'm sorry. But yeah, so it's a little bit about what I do. And now a little bit more on the bigger scale, I kind of oversee and do a lot of stuff with our brushes and tools. So like our full beat kit that you guys may have recently seen launched, I was able to work on that from start to finish. That was one of my first start to finish projects, and that is one I'm very proud of, and I think it's very aesthetically pleasing with the rainbow and everything. So yeah, it's kind of my journey in a snapshot.
That, I don't know, that's amazing. The sponges, that's so cool. They are really, really nice. Like I feel like I see them when the content team kind of shared the images. I was like, this is literally everything. They look like little eggs. They're so cute. So I'll go ahead and kick it off to Virginia to have an open Q&A. I know she has some questions for you guys. So Virginia, take it away.
So we're going to be starting the Q&A section with a question for Erin. And they want to know if you can explain the journey of a product from ideation to launch.
Sure. So there's a few different ways. I'm going to focus more on like a new technology versus like a shade development. So sometimes the idea begins because Laura like comes down the hall and is like, I want this. And she's like, knows exactly what she wants and she wants something. So we just go. Sometimes it's because, you know, there's a white space, there's a trend. So right after we identify what we want to do, then we do competitive analysis. So that's where Jazzy comes in and she does all this research and just spreadsheet full of like all these brands that are doing this and all the info. So we test everything. We find out what we like, what we don't like. So the whole PD team, we're all working on this. We're all trying everything. Once we establish what exactly we want to do, how we want to make something better, what we want to change about it, then we'll have a meeting with Laura and we'll present our idea to Laura.
once she approves it and is aligned, then 1 or 2 team members will own the project. And then we'll kick off our SI2 lab with a formulate lab request. They will begin the formula after they do all of their research. And we literally try every single trial. So if one person on the PD team is leading this, you're seeing submissions all day long. Now, what makes us different from other, there's a lot of things that make us different from other brands, but one major thing is that the PD department sits right next to our lab. We are neighbors. We are seeing every single trial. So in most companies, once the R&D or the formulator gets kicked off on a project, they will develop that formula until it meets the attributes that they believe PD wants. So they could do 20, 30, 40 trials until PD actually touches, feels it, tries it. We see every single trial because we believe there's something to learn from every trial we see. We may go into a project thinking we want X, Y, and Z. And the formulator may develop something that doesn't think it's meeting these qualities, but we see it and we might say, oh my gosh, this is actually better than we wanted. This has better slip than we thought. This feels better, whatever it may be. So we truly believe that it's so important to see and evaluate everything. Yes, sometimes our eyes feel like they're falling off. Or our lips.
Or our faces.
So whoever is leading the project, once they think, and usually like within the ColourPop team, there's 4 of us that we all sit next to each other. So we all know what each one is doing and we're passing it around and we're all trying it and we're all giving feedback. Once we feel like we're all aligned, then we'll extend to the rest of the PD team. So we want all of our coworkers on every brand to try everything. And once we feel like the formula is where it needs to be, then we will present it to Laura. And we will align with Laura and make sure she really likes it. Once she likes it, then we kick off our panel testing. So we'll open up panel testing and we'll give it to about 15 or 20 people within the organization, mostly the marketing team. And once we get good results, either we get good results and it gets approved, or we get feedback and we make changes. So then it goes back to the lab and we kind of start the process all over again. So let's say it is approved. From there, PD is now watching that formula through all the scale ups to ensure, especially with new technologies and new formulas, once we get into bigger batches, things can go crazy in the formula and it totally changes. And so we're just monitoring that formula is staying, basically all the attributes are what they were when we developed it. Once it goes to compounding, we are still very hands-on with compounding with their QA department, and we are still approving batches with anything that's brand new. And we're really watching that formula through the whole production process till it launches. And of course, we work really closely with marketing and graphic design and our web team and all of that on all the launch strategies and whatnot. So that's pretty much it on the new product development. And with shade development, it's really a lot of like researching trends, looking at social, all of like the runway shows and creating mood boards. I mean, this is like so much fun. Like the mood boards, and Jazzy makes amazing mood boards. It's like probably one of my most fun things is when we like sit down and talk about like shade development and what we're going to do for the upcoming season. And we present the ideas with Laura. Laura's very hands-on, and she's very passionate about ColourPop and shades and everything. I mean, she touches and feels every single thing we launch, and it's really fun working with her. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Am I forgetting anything, guys?
That was very informative. I personally was curious as well because, working on the marketing side of things, sometimes we don't know where things start, and it's can be even months in advance that you guys started planning all this. before we even hear of it. So it's very cool to learn that. And the next question will be for Megan. What toxic ingredients do you try to avoid?
That's a great question. I think in general, the goal for, I'm going to speak on behalf of Fourth Ray initially, because that's the brand that I think that this is like the most relevant for. And I think the goal for Fourth Ray is developing cleaner formulas. And part of the way we do that is by identifying ingredients that we don't want to use. I think probably one of the most important things for Fourth Ray is staying away from anything that's animal tested or animal derived. That's really important for a variety of our brands at Seed Beauty, including ColourPop. And it's just really important for us at Fourth Ray as well. We also stay away from parabens, not necessarily because of safety concerns, but actually more because there's a consumer perception that parabens aren't safe, and we don't want to formulate with things that people have to be nervous about. Parabens are kind of like, from a product development standpoint and from a technical R&D standpoint, there was some evidence that potentially they weren't great, but that that scientific data has kind of been quasi debunked. But because consumer perception is already changed and people think that parabens are dangerous, it's very hard to change that that perception. So we just don't use them because there's all these other alternatives that we're able to use that people aren't scared of. We also don't use synthetic fragrance compounds. When we do use aromatics, we use natural fragrances or aromatic extracts at very, very low levels. And then we stay away from sodium lauryl sulfate and sodium lauryl sulfate. These are foaming ingredients. They aren't necessarily toxic, but they're just very, very, they can be, depending on the use level, very harsh. And from a PD and R&D standpoint, they're commodity foaming ingredients, meaning that they're cheap and they work. They definitely work, but we strive to make as luxurious formulas as possible. And part of the way we're able to do that is because of our vertical integration. We're able to formulate in-house, produce in-house. And so we're able to make just really, really luxurious formulas because we're not contracting that work all over the place. And then lastly, we stay away from phthalates. There is some scientific data that indicates that those might be hormone disruptors. A lot of data that exists in terms of ingredient safety, there needs to be more studies, but when there's an ingredient that we question, we just don't use it because we don't want to have any concerns or worry. So from a Fourth Ray perspective, those are the ingredients that we stay away from. And then from a personal perspective, you know, I'm not necessarily super afraid of parabens. For those of you that don't know, parabens are, they're preservatives. And anytime you have a formula that has water in it, you need to have a preservative. There is a trend in skincare of being preservative free, but I would rather have a formula that is preserved, because not having a formula that's preserved means that that formula has the potential for microbial growth. If you guys have questions, if I'm going too fast, if this is confusing, please ask questions in the comments so I can clarify. But from my perspective, preservatives are really important for product safety. So parabens don't scare me, but there are two ingredients that I personally avoid, and we don't use them in Fourth Ray. And then I just, in my personal life, avoid using them. And that's triclosan. That is an ingredient that has antimicrobial capabilities. And there is some initial evidence that that might be a hormone disruptor. I'm less concerned about the hormone disruption. I'm more concerned about overuse of antimicrobial ingredients, because that can actually spur bacterial resistance, which is a big problem in the scientific and medical community. So it's my personal belief that triclosan should be reserved for surgeons, for medical institutions, and should not necessarily be used in like a residential setting, because of the challenges that the medical community is facing with bacterial resistant strains of bacteria, where that's just a problem that we have in the world. And then the other ingredient is hydroquinone. That's a skin lightening ingredient. It's really interesting because you will see dermatologists talk about this ingredient over and over again because it works. It's a great way to get rid of dark spots, but one of the challenges, and the reason I don't use it, is because the way it works is because it's actually cytotoxic to melanocytes. Let me tell you what that means. You have certain cells within your skin that produce melanin, and this ingredient like will actually go in and kill those cells. And melanin is actually a really important part of our skin. It is the pigment in our skin, and it is actually you can think of melanin as almost like your own personal sunscreen. One of the problems with sun exposure is that the sun will emit these really powerful and harmful UV rays that will actually knock DNA, like knock certain components of your DNA out, and that's part of skin damage, and that's what will lead to skin cancer. And melanin is actually a super, super strong antioxidant, so it will actually protect your DNA. So the idea to me of like inhibiting or destroying the cells that are producing this material that protects your skin seems counterintuitive to me and not like a good idea. So I personally don't use hydroquinone. A lot of dermatologists love it, but it scares the bejesus out of me. So that's my ingredient spiel.
Thank you so much, Megan. Yeah, we had someone say in the chat that you're so insightful and they feel like they're in class and that it's not a bad thing. And I feel that way too. Whenever I hear you talk about ingredients, I feel like I'm like, wow, I should probably do a bit more research. Like, I don't ever read ingredient labels on anything, but I love learning more about it.
Just talk to me. And I think on Fourth Ray, on our social account, we're going to have more ingredient chats in IGTV. So if you're not already following Fourth Ray Beauty and you want to learn more about skincare ingredients, we definitely talk a lot about it on our Fourth Ray Beauty Instagram channel. So definitely go over and follow us there if you want to continue to get some nerdy skincare education.
I love that. Yeah, I love your first series that you did. I felt like I learned so much and you made it really digestible for like a newbie like me.
Thank you.
So our next question is going to be for Celeste. What are some tips you would give to someone who is looking for an entry-level product development position?
I really like this question because I feel like, obviously, like I said before, that's what I got into, is a product development position that was entry level. And I feel like the most important thing, and this is obviously for me a little bit before I got that opportunity, but I was so passionate about ColourPop, and it was so, it was a genuine passion. It was something that, you know, I followed the brand on Instagram. Like I said, I was watching Jordan Sharon's stories. Like I remember when Jordan was brunette, like when she was a redhead, like I remember all that stuff. So like I genuinely, like, I grew and I loved the brand while they were growing. So I feel like that's really important, is first of all, when you're finding a brand that you do want to work for or intern for, to genuinely love that brand, because that will seep through your pores. I mean, I know I've done a few, I've conducted a few internship interviews, and for me, I can tell when when information is being regurgitated from our site, or when it's something that they know and that they love and that they practice. So I think that genuine passion is like number one, what you should definitely have for the brand that you are applying for, and the brand values align with what you are passionate about. So for ColourPop, we love our fur babies. We do not do animal testing. We're a cruelty-free brand, which we take a lot of pride in. We do our No Kill LA collab every year, which Erin is so passionate about, and we all love working on it. Those shades are the most amazing shades, and they're some of our favorites. And also, you know, obviously beauty that doesn't break the bank. Having that accessible price point is so, so important to us. And our most important, I think, is our community and being able to hear that community voice. And I mean, these ladies know, they work on the social side and the marketing side, and they know how important it is to us to know what you guys want to see. And so I think those for sure are the ColourPop, the biggest brand values that I would say. I think in interviewing interns or even associates, like I said, that passion is something that we definitely look for, but also knowledge. So not just about, you know, not to not just basic makeup knowledge, because that's something that can be learned and taught. Like Jazzy didn't start off on her first day knowing how to do an eyeshadow quad and how to, you know, pick apart color and say, add more black, add more white, like playing with that. All of that is skill that you will develop, and that obviously the ladies on our team can help develop. But just the knowledge of the brand, like I said, and having that, that genuine love for the brand, knowing like what a super shock shadow is, knowing what a creme gel liner and a creme gel color is, and having that that knowledge, and then a willingness to do everything. This is my biggest thing, especially when you're coming in at an entry level, interns and associates. And I think even us, like, so as a coordinator and Erin as a senior manager, we've done scrappy projects where you have to get down and dirty, and you cannot be afraid to, you know, get in there and search through cabinets of old product that's, you know, that we've been hoarding for years, or get into, you know, R&D formulary and find a formula number from X amount of years ago. You just have to have an okay, like, I'll do it attitude, and like, yeah, it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's territory that's uncharted, but you have to be willing to just say, okay, and just do it. I remember actually my first year, or my first month in product development, John and Laura were helping us pack out PR. We had to like get it out the door. So like ownership was literally, I see Erin nodding her head, like I remember ownership was putting like lip gloss and super shock shadows into this PR box. So just having that willingness to do, and yeah, I think that's for sure my biggest thing, especially because a lot of the jobs are tedious. A lot of them, like organizing eyeshadows, putting things in color order, that stuff, that's those skills that tedious work requires is so helpful later on. I know Erin's favorite thing to do is to schematicize eyeshadows. Like, it's aesthetically pleasing to her. She loves it. So those would be my biggest things.
Thank you so much, Celeste. I'm sure that was very insightful for everyone. Especially, you know, being in college, that's when I was like wondering a lot of these questions. And so our next question will be for Jasmine. And the question is, what skills do you use the most from FIDM?
So FIDM, obviously being a specialty institution, we're going there, living, breathing, doing beauty every single day. So being in that environment, you are of course going to learn so much, and I like to, when I was first starting, even though I'm still very fresh in the beauty industry, I'm on year 2 now at Seed Beauty. I always reference myself as a sponge, because eventually I would love to be the best asset as possible in the beauty industry. I just want to soak up as much knowledge as I can. And thankfully, going to an institution like FIDM, I was able to gain so many tools and knowledge, and just like theoretical knowledge that I can put forth into my hands-on knowledge when getting my first internship or working for my first brand, whatever that may be. I knew that I was mentally prepared because I was going in, you should go in knowing the most basic things. So like terminology, packaging, if there's problem solving, I know that I was prepared to, if I was brought forward a situation or something that went wrong on the product side, what is a solution that we can put forth to make sure that that product or that launch still meets its deliverables. Also, we've had a little bit of background and knowledge as being FIDM students in kind of understanding product, as far as like how to assess product and understanding slip, glide, and all that. And also, like, I know we were taught, like when we were making highlighters and we were making lipsticks in one of our classes, it was beauty technology, I believe was the course. So you're able to sort of understand and get the wherewithal of how you can kind of see color. What's the process of making that lipstick into, even also how are you going to mold that lipstick and make it into a certain bullet that you want it to be. But I feel like one of the biggest things when I was starting at FIDM, I've always known that I wanted to go into product development because I've always loved the idea and the challenge of trying to figure out what product best fits the brand, because it's not just I want to launch this lip gloss. There has to be strategy behind it, and there has to be a reason why that lip gloss would benefit the brand, because it needs to fit its brand mission or the brand image. So one of the biggest things that I feel like I've learned was understanding your target consumer for your brand and how that product can best fit that consumer, so that in the long run you're getting longevity for the brand and you're getting profit and you're getting revenue and you're continuously growing. So I feel like that's definitely the biggest thing that I've taken away from FIDM, is understanding how you can determine your consumer and how that will benefit the brand, whether that be your brand or a brand that you work for.
Perfect. Thank you, Jazzy. So this next question is going to be for Erin. And I'm kind of combining two that I'm seeing here are being asked in the Q&A section. And they're basically asking just how are you able to stand out and get employers or hiring managers to look past just the experience that you have? And kind of wrapping into that is like how to get started on internships. I know a lot of people going into internships, at least your first one, you may not have any experience. So what are other things that you look for in potential candidates that would stand out to you?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. Kind of piggying back a little bit on what Celeste was talking about and the passion. I'm going back to last time we did some interviews at Seed, and there were several of us that were interviewing. It was for all the brands actually. And there was a few people that really, really stood out to me, and it was because it didn't feel like an interview. The conversation was just so natural, and I was talking to someone that was just like so passionate, and they just loved the brand so much. They loved makeup so much, and I could just see it and feel it. And again, like also what Celeste says too about always like saying yes, like being a yes person. Like it is so like amazing when, you know, you have like, yes, like take the initiative. Like I see something that needs to get done, I'm going to just take the initiative and I'm going to do it. And just being like super hard working, having that work ethic is so important. But yes, I definitely think the passion is so, so important.
I totally agree. At Seed Beauty, it's a lot of very passionate people. So
you know what? Sorry, one other thing, I have to like say the story because it's so, so cute how Jazzy got her position. This is really good. Now you could even take this as some advice. Jasmine DM'd me on Instagram. She sent a message and she said, I'm a FIDM student. I love ColourPop. I've seen you on the ColourPop stories. I love ColourPop so much. What can I, you know, do you have any internships coming open? And like, we really didn't have anything like in mind, like any positions open. But after I was reading it, I thought, oh my gosh, we really do need an intern right now. So I went to my director and I was like, I got this DM from this FIDM student and she's asking about an internship. And I think we really do need an intern. We're slammed right now. And she literally was hired in like 2 weeks. Like it was so, I just love that story. And like Jasmine taking the initiative and having that passion, I couldn't forget about her. I was like, wow, this girl's amazing.
Yeah, persistence is definitely key. I think if you want something, you have to go after it. That's something I also learned, not just from life and maturing and growing up, but also from FIDM. It's not just going to be handed to you just because you have FIDM on your resume. You need to work for it, and you sometimes need to put yourself out there, even if it might make, because I can sometimes be very shy, but I knew that I wanted this, and I knew that I wanted to work for a brand, especially one like ColourPop, because I think it is so groundbreaking and innovative in the way that we function. And I saw the opportunity when Erin used to do her Tipsy Tuesdays, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to message Erin and see if there's any internship positions open, because this is something that I really want. And if I'm going to learn from any brand, I think it's going to be Seed Beauty and ColourPop where I would learn the most.
Yeah, and it's so competitive. There's so many people trying to get these positions. So anything that you can do to stand out, do it.
Right.
I love that.
You're going to get a lot of DMs.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah, no, it's so true. When I actually emailed the director of marketing, and for so long I was like, oh my God, like, should I email? Should I not email? Like, I was like, I want to be honest and kind of just be an open book. Like, I was scared because I was like so sure. I'm like, should I do it? Should I not do it? But sometimes you just have to, like Jasmine said, if you want something, you have to push yourself and put yourself out there, because nothing is ever going to be like, here, Alondra, like, here it is for you. So make sure you guys just put your guys selves out there and don't be confident.
One more thing too, based off of that too, obviously FIDM has so much networking opportunities. So when there is something like the LA study tour or like the San Francisco study tour, or when you do the advanced program, you have to go on the New York trip, which is just an amazing trip that I'm sure a lot of you guys know about already. But when doing the LA study tour, I decided to sign up for that, and that's where I was able to go on this tour of meeting all these different brands, and one of them was ColourPop. So even there too, even though I did DM Erin already, I wanted to make sure that I got my name out there one more time. So I asked the executive assistant, is there any internship positions open? If there's even any customer service positions open too, I'm like all for that also. Whatever I can do to get my foot in the door, I wanted to be there.
I love that. That's really great advice, you guys. And the next question is going to be for both Celeste and Jasmine. And Jacqueline asked, I'm in my first year at FIDM, but how soon would you both recommend looking into internships?
Should I take this one first, Celeste?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I remember because of my situation with FIDM, I was a professional designation student, so meaning that I was already in college prior to going to FIDM, but I decided to make a change in my path and I transferred into FIDM, so I went straight into my beauty courses. So because I wasn't doing the first 2 full years like most of you guys are doing, I was in the accelerated program where I had 9 months and I was going to get my first AA. Some people stop at their AA and then try to go into the beauty industry. From there, I knew that I wanted to eventually get my bachelor's degree, so I kept going. I remember on orientation day, I think Tina, or hi Tina, I also saw you in the comments. I want to shout out Tina really quick. I remember Alex and Tina telling all of us not to push yourself too hard and being so eager to get an internship within your first year, because FIDM, there is so much going on. You guys know it's very project heavy. You're always working on a project, and aside from those projects, you also have your individual assignments that you're working on too. So from my personal experience, it's very important, I think, within your first year to focus on your grades and your projects and just getting comfortable with FIDM at first, because I know that it can be overwhelming at times and it can be stressful. And then going into your second year, when you're getting your AA and you're in your more, you're in the major specific courses. So you're in your fundamentals of cosmetics, you're in your fragrance class, you're in branded history, you're in all those courses, beauty technology. I think that's kind of the time when you should start searching and using your resources like Tina or Alex to start looking for internships, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself too much in the beginning.
Yeah, so I personally did not go to FIDM. That was kind of my dream at one point to go to FIDM, but I ended up, like I said, majoring in communication and going that route. I would say, just from a stress management perspective, take on what you can handle. Especially when you're so passionate about something, you're gonna want to dive so deep into it. And I think that if you take on too much, you can't give your full attention to one specific thing. So don't spread yourself too thin, because that will also show in your work. Obviously, school is super, super important, and you pay lots of money for your good education. So definitely focus on school. But I would say, if you have the opportunity and you have the bandwidth as far as your schedule, I would definitely, do it when you have time, when you have the ability to take on more.
That's definitely great advice. I know I was taking on way too much of my plate freshman year. I thought I could be in 20 clubs and have 2 jobs and, still have great grades, and that just did not work out for me. So I love the tip for stress management.
I remember when I first started at ColourPop, I loved my retail job so much, and not because I loved retail, because like I said, I didn't, but I did love my manager, and I just wanted to continue to work with her and my other coworkers. And so I was continuing to work at the outlets on the weekends for maybe a month or two after I started working at ColourPop, and I could not do it. I really couldn't. I mean, yes, we were sitting there answering emails all day, but you get home and you're just exhausted. You're staring at a computer screen, you're dealing with other people's problems for 8 hours, and it's exhausting. So yeah, definitely don't bite off more than you can chew. Take bite-sized pieces. You have the rest of your life to thrive, but definitely, if you have that passion and that bandwidth, then go for it.
Thank you so much, Celeste. So this next and final question is going to be for Megan, and it's from Valeria, and she asked, I would love to know what has been your favorite product you have worked on and the one that you are the proudest of.
Megs, you're muted. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Can you
you,
retell your
Celeste.
cute joke?
What cute joke?
I don't know. It looked like you told a cute joke.
Oh, because I laughed at myself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was I don't have just one, I have 5. I'm super proud. I'm super proud of our Fourth Ray and Soul formulas. We have such a incredibly talented team. Our team in SI2, which is our fancy version of R&D, or research and development, we have an incredible team that I am blessed to work with every day. And the formulas that we're making are so beautiful, and they're all at accessible price points, which sets my soul on fire. This is Fourth Ray's Cloud Bank. Oh, you can't see this is a pump. This is a milky cleanser, and it's a beautiful formula. It's super, super soft, super gentle. It has a really soft foam to it. I love that formula. Radiate Vitamin C Serum for Fourth Ray is incredible. Rainfall 2% hyaluronic acid serum. It's in my personal opinion that's the best hyaluronic acid serum on the market. Soul, we have an incredible gradual self-tanning lotion. We have it in 2 shades, a fair to light and a medium to deep. Beautiful formula. I think it's the best gradual self-tanning formula on the market, and that it feels really good and it smells good, which is a challenge for self-tanning products. And then lastly, the daily facial moisturizer for fourth ray. That is like a truly like luxury facial moisturizer that's gorgeous. Gorgeous. It's just like a beautiful plush texture. If you guys are going online to look, we might be out of stock on some of those things. We're currently gearing up and trying to fix some of that. So just please be patient with us. But those would probably be my like top recommendations for fourth ray and Sol. Thanks.
Yeah, I hear so much love for the daily and especially for rainfall. Like people just want their hydration, and that's definitely a go-to. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up our panel. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you to our panelists, you know, the product development team, for taking time out of your day and sharing your stories. I hope that you guys all found something insightful, learned something, were able to have your questions answered. And we will also be having a marketing panel next week on Tuesday at the same time. So we hope to see you all there. I don't know if there's anything else you ladies want to mention before we go, but other than that, I hope you guys have a great day and a fabulous week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.